Mecca hi, mecca hiney ho. When last we left off, we were moving to LXD Linux containers on Windows, and you might have been left feeling a little bit like Inception inside a ziggurat of containers, not knowing what's what. So I figured in this video I'd give you that sort of overview of what's going on. We got ourselves successfully onto an instance of Linux running under LXD, managed from the Windows subsystem from Linux, which we're all bullied into by Microsoft, who themselves was bullied into providing Windows subsystem for Linux for survival, to keep credibility as a developer platform. Of course, that is provided from the Windows platform, a very marketing-oriented operating system, which becomes more objectionable with every passing year. And we are using network-attached storage as kind of a glue to hold things together. The story is less about that on this video, and we'll get to that later because it does contain a lot of your toolboxes, which can connect to all these different pieces, which kind of are feeling a little bit separated from each other as if they're own islands. Now, the thing is, the key to getting started is, in fact, where your keys are. You wouldn't think so, but it's all about Git at this point, because Git is, in the stack, in the short stack, or whatever you want to call it, that I advocate: Linux, Python, Vim, and Git. This is the least talked about one, but this is the piece that lets you get your code around. And you're not going to get your code around if it's private, if it's something you're keeping personal or collaborating with a small group, if there are not keys in the picture. So we'll forget about the toolbox for now and the wizard and all these pictures, and we'll just focus on that functionality. Boom, boom, boom. Where are my keys? Well, first I gotta hit this point home and show you folks what happens when you try to clone your own private repo from GitHub or any other Git repository without keys. Because one of the ideas is, with Git, this distributed version control system, your code is not only on your local machine with like infinite undos going back to the beginning of the project, which is useful in its own right, but a copy of that whole history, just like you have locally, also exists at least in one remote location for safety, so you can not lose it by accident. You can optionally collaborate with other people. And so that is the Git program itself, which comes up under Linux. So when last we left off, I had it that with a double click, I was dropping directly into the container. I undid that, and this is a full boot because I just did a shutdown of the Linux side to make it nice and fresh. And you can see Nell at Diamond Age. So that's my WSL instance. You can always tell my WSL instances because it's named after Alice or Dorothy, or in this case, Nell at Diamond Age, one of Neil Stephenson's great books of the genre. So we don't really want to do anything from here except get into the container. All our work is going to be inside the container, except for a few mappings we'll do, and that's kind of a preview. Okay, so to get into the container, it's this long command. We can make sure it's there by doing LXC ls, and I like to do -- fast so that it doesn't wrap too wide. So I can see it's there. It's stopped. But the next time I do that same command, it's running because it sees me having checked what's there. It's going to get it running, so it's running. So now that it's running, I can do LXC. This is the long command I was talking about. You can execute against drummers. It's now called drummers. I got rid of warm possum because warm possum. I'm staying consistent with my Diamond Age naming convention. -- space, switch user, login, Ubuntu. Watch my cursor, watch my prompt. Nell at Diamond Age becomes Ubuntu at drummers, right? Simple as that. Now I'm going to exit, and you'll remember that out here from Windows subsystem from Linux, I had a bash profile. I'm going to create a new one. I deleted my old one because there was a race issue. Anyone who's actually following along with me might have hit the problem that after a system reboot, it wouldn't work. It was a timing issue. So I dealt with the timing issue with this simple bash script loop here with a simple 1 second delay between attempts, outputting to dev null error messages and stuff so that you don't see anything until it's actually working. I put that in the bash profile. I quit. I write and I quit. All right. I'm going to exit out. And just for good measure so that you folks can see I'm not messing around, I'm going to WSL shutdown. That kills Linux, right? It kills everything in memory from Linux. So when I go back in here, it's both going to restart the whole Linux. It's going to go in the WSL, and then it's going to go into the container, even with that delay. So there's the delay of the startup. And there's the delay of another startup. This is 2 Linux boots you're seeing occur right here. Still not too bad, and it goes directly into Ubuntu at Drummers. Now we're going to try and, well, first we'll ls. You'll see there's not really much there. ls-la. We do have a .ssh, so I'm going to cd into .ssh and ls there. You can see there's just an authorized keys file. There's no actual keys. We're going to have to deal with that. So I'm going to cd ... I'm going to make dir GitHub. It's my convention. Everything I clone from GitHub, I put into a directory called GitHub, so I know where to go. I'd say you should do it too. It's a great system. But now, if I actually tried to clone something out of GitHub, a private repo, something of mine, it's not going to work because there's no keys. And without keys, you would think it would prompt you for a username password. Now watch. Git clone git at github.com. It sounds a little bit crazy, but that's how you get SSH protocol instead of HTTPS:// which you can never get rid of the password challenge with HTTPS protocol. But with this, which implies SSH protocol, you can get rid of the password challenge once our keys are in place. But it's calling your username at GitHub and then / your repo. I'll use OHAWF, OAuth 2 package I have in there. And I try and clone it. Okay, it does this fingerprinting stuff. I'll answer yes on that. But nonetheless, permission denied, right? Public key. I don't have the right public key. Well, where is the right public key? The right public key is here on my USB keychain. Look, that's how it looks like a key. I would highly recommend anyone who does this, get one that can't be pulled through there. That's strong. Once that goes on your keychain, it's physically not breaking off. It would take a lot of force to lose this USB from your keychain. So now the thing is, do I put it directly onto the container? How would I even do that, right? There's challenges here, which is, again, this picture. Each of these things exists like an island, and your keys often start out Windows side. Well, where Windows side? In your users directory. C:\users / your username / a .ssh directory, just like it is on Linux. Windows uses the same convention, thankfully. So we'll start the process by putting the keys there. Well, you know what? I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to go to the mappings, and then I'm going to put the keys in place to show you an extra little bonus about mappings. Just because you make a mapping doesn't mean it's going to work until you put something in location. So the final thing is, I said we're not going to be using WSL, the one in the middle, this one here. Well, there is one thing we have to do there. We have to do this bi-directional mapping. On one side to the Windows side, see, this is to the Windows location, we're going to be using a symbolic link. This is a Unix convention, links, and it's that -s means it's a symbolic link. It's going to drop a file in location that's going to make this location for our WSL user appear like it's this location. It's going to pull anything located in this location. And then we're going to do another mapping, which is through the LXC API, to configure our container to have a mapping. But this is going to be from WSL user, right? So because it's coming from the WSL user is the reason why we have to do this first entry, because I have to emphasize the point. You don't want to make any dependencies on this from this. The idea is one day we're going to cross a line through, well, probably not an LXD host is probably going to be in the picture, but Windows is not. So we're going to draw a line through that. You're going to cross out the WSL portion here, and all the API stuff you learn is still going to be appropriate. So in other words, this bottom portion is going to be with you for maybe the rest of your life. And this upper line is only going to be necessary for as long as you're on Windows subsystem for Linux, although symbolic linking is a wonderful skill to know, so still you should know it. So let's do this, right? The same place that I have put my notes on that startup, I put the notes on these mappings, right? These are the generic mappings. This is the same thing in that slide presentation I just showed you. But then I've already gone ahead and put in my usernames on both sides so that you don't have to watch me struggle for editing that. Now we're still in Ubuntu at Drummers. A single exit will bring us back up to WSL, right? No, look at that. It brings us back up and then back in. Isn't that funny? That must be because of my my bash script. Whenever I go in there, it's going to keep rerunning it and pushing me back in. I did not think of that. Let me think for a moment. I might give you a big bonus here, feature on WSL changing the root user, because if I foobarred myself, let me just try X. Oh, look, Nell at Diamond Age. It worked. I'm not so concerned, but there is a little bit of an issue there why this exit only brought me to Ubuntu at Drummers. I'll take care of that on my own. But now that we're here at Nell at Diamond Age, I'll do a Control L to clear the screen, right? Clear the screen, clear your mind. I'll do a before and after. Copy that into my copy buffer. But before I do anything, ls, right? There's only that install script from getting systemd on there. We don't even need that anymore. Move install.sh. Now we do an ls. It's empty except for the invisible things, right? There's a few things there. I just put the bash profile there. But one thing that there is not for sure is a .ssh. Unlike the LXD container that had a .ssh directory already ahead of time, this one doesn't. It's interesting the decisions that are made by Microsoft versus Ubuntu or whatever. But this magical command, the marketing, right click should paste that. Control C, right click, there we go. So now we're going to create a symbolic link. And so the listing up there is the before, and the listing down here is the after. See this one here? It's mapped to that location, Windows side. Now that would make you think you could actually go into it, wouldn't it, right? cd.ssh. No such file or directory. One more thing, if you don't mind. We're going to go over here. We're going to go over here. See, aren't virtual screens great? People were asking me, I don't get the virtual screens, but virtual screens are something I could hardly live without. With just 6 of them, look how much more useful. And I went to a higher res so I can get a 7 in there. 7's my sweet spot. I like 7 virtual screens. But here on virtual screen 5s, I take that aforementioned USB key, I plug it into my machine. We get the old familiar doo-doo-doo-doo, and I'll go into the home directory there. Now, if you are moving files around like this and you don't see anything, it's very important that Windows users know that they have this options thing here somewhere, view options. I don't even know where it is, but you have to show your hidden files, because these dot files are hidden by Windows, just like it's hidden from Linux. All right, so another Explorer we'll put over here to the left. It's like old Norton Explorer, right? For people who liked their file managers more than operating systems. I'm still with you. Disk manager forever on the Amiga. So getting your home directory. Windows has made that challenging, right? The default does not have the My Computer anymore. So folks who, I put it there myself. Okay, I'm going to get rid of it because you folks need to see how to get it if you miss it. So it's always on this computer. this PC. If you drill in through this PC, you can always go in through your C drive. And from your C drive, there's always a users directory. And from your users directory are the different Windows accounts that have been set up. So I highly recommend dropping a copy of your user account, your home directory, into your quick links, right? So now you can access it really quickly and easily. And all I'm doing is I'm copying that .ssh thing that I keep, right? So before I do that, quick before and after, right? Trying to cd into .ssh from, in fact, I'll put the fully qualified path ~/ so you can see I'm trying to do it into my home directory .ssh, or alternatively cd/home/nel.ssh, all the same things, all right? Each time no such file or directory, but now I go from Windows side and I drop this into location. Simple as that. Go back here. Do that same command again. There I am. It got in there. I can do an ls. You'll see the names of my keys. So what, and that's it. So now let's do a clear. Control L to clear. cd back to home ~/ GitHub. Oh, I'm in Diamond Age. Oh yeah, right. I mapped it from Diamond Age. I'm getting ahead of myself. Right? Before I just do the cloning and stuff, because the cloning takes place from inside the container after I've done this next step, right? I told you about it. It's bidirectional mapping. I just did this mapping here to get the .ssh location from up at Windows. Now I've got to push it down to the container, right? Okay, so I go to my notes where I have modified that for my exact name. You'll see I have drummers there, and I have Ubuntu here and Nel here. Control C, and now I'll cd. Well, yuck, I hate when I do that by accident, but I'm going to cd to home. It doesn't really matter. I just like to do these from the home directory because you never know when something's path dependent. Oh, there you go again with marketing, rigging stuff for marketing in Windows. Can't wait to ditch you, Windows. And we'll cover ditching Windows. I'm going to do the summer of code. It's a bit late for the summer of Chrome OS Flex, but we're still going to cover it. All right, so this is an LXC command that's going to configure the device, adding to drummers the .ssh names, that's an arbitrary name, as a type disk from source, the path of the WSL that is hosting it, to the path of inside the container where it needs to be. Device.ssh added to drummers. So now I could either do that long command to log out, or I could just exit and double click my terminal again, and that'll just drop us right into drummers. And I can do an ls-la. Now you'll remember .ssh was there before, but the default .ssh that was there has now been replaced with something it is acknowledging through that color coding as being not a symbolic link, because it's a different method now. This is LXC, the command, mapping it in for LXD, the daemon, the Linux service that's kind of running the show here. And now I can cd to that GitHub location. And I doubt, it's probably in my command line history, but it never hurts to, get it in practice through muscle memory. We're doing git clone, git at github.com:McLevin/OHAWF. Now you'll remember last time I had a permission denied, but my keys are there, and this is the purpose of this video. Success. If I do an ls, there's my OAuth directory. cd into OAuth ls. There's the files pulled down from GitHub. Wow. Yeah. So that's a pretty nice feeling, I gotta tell you. What we're working towards here is getting in the habit that will survive forever, right? Because this is about obsolescence resistance. This is about future proofing. So everything that we've done here because it's WSL, will go away, and we'll be able to use generic Linux in the future. Any Linux distro that you can get LXD on, you can use to host these containers in the future. And this API syntax becomes very important. This is important too, but for other reasons in the future. And there you have it. Your whole world of your GitHub repositories has now opened up to you from inside a container, right? What I'm saying is that when you are getting ready to do work here and you sit down at your Windows machine, you say, okay, let me do some coding, or let me do some work with some GitHub repos. You just double click there. You're in a full screen Linux terminal. If you ls, there's a GitHub directory. You can cd into your GitHub directory and you can use your repos. This is it. This is the purpose of this video. This is a huge culmination of a lot of this work. And on the following videos, we will be making it feel even more and more and more like home, getting you into the Vim text editor, getting Jupyter server running Linux side, even though you'll continue to use it through the web interface on Windows side. A really clever trick that obsoletes Jupyter Lab desktop and Jupyter as acquired through the Anaconda install. And I'm leading you into a wonderful future, obsolescence resistant, future proofed. And can't you see that what we're doing with a command line interface is starting to feel a little bit more like home? I hope you do. Comment, give me your feedback, and definitely all those things people ask people to do on YouTube, and I'll follow up with my next video. Maybe it'll be time for getting Jupyter server running over inside of the container here and having it accessed through a web browser Windows side for faster performance, truer / paths, and easier taking of your Jupyter Notebook work over to true Linux 24/7 automation. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. Don't forget to subscribe.